Shadow infrastructure. I didn't know what it meant either. I spent time searching through the literature for this term, shadow infrastructure. Nowhere. Search for anybody who's used the term. Nothing. Nada. Zip. But it came up recently. And it just may be the next liberal buzzword to hijack the narrative. Everybody's favorite liberal hack. Rachel Maddow. Known for her resemblance of a prepubescent boy and her knack for being a shill for the Democrat Party. She had Cecilia Rouse on her show, chair of the Biden White House Council of Economic Advisors. And she was basically on to give an infomercial about this big infrastructure plan they've been hyping, which Rachel Maddow's show is generally made up of government infomercials and Russian conspiracies, so it was really just another day. But towards the end of the segment, they got to this term, shadow infrastructure. And I want to dig into how bad Rachel Maddow is at journalism and also dissect what they're doing with this term, shadow infrastructure.
I think that when it comes to the idea of infrastructure, even though it's a long, hard to pronounce word.
Infrastructure is not a long, hard to pronounce word, but this is the Sesame Street of news, so the viewers of this garbage literally need to be told what to think. And completely useless anecdotes are kind of her thing.
Everybody's left, right, and center on board with the idea of spending American taxpayer dollars to improve bridges and roads and ports and airports and all of these things that we think of as traditional, literally concrete infrastructure.
Where she got this information, I have no idea. But somewhere in her head, she thinks everyone in this country is in favor of using tax dollars to fund infrastructure. While the Fed just prints money for COVID relief, which really just went to every politician's favorite campaign donor and special interest. Everybody just wants to pay more and more taxes to let good old Joe Biden build concrete stuff. Okay, Rachel, whatever you say. So she just frames the whole question this way. Omitting facts for opinion. This is what news is.
But there's other things in this proposal that Republicans in particular have derided as having nothing to do with infrastructure. They've said they want it all stripped out of the bill. What is the argument for how, for instance, the money that's proposed to provide care for the elderly and disabled that's in this bill, how does that lead to jobs? How is that part of infrastructure as it's conceived for this bill?
And this is why Rachel Maddow is nothing but a Democrat shill, and her show is a fake news TV show which grants propaganda time on screen for the chosen ones. It's a scripted TV show. This isn't a question. She's literally just setting this up for her to hit all her talking points. Rachel Maddow's over there setting up the tee, putting the ball on top of the tee very softly, carefully right on the tee for her guests to just hit it out of the park. Then they all cheer about how smart everybody is. It's the definition of a clown show. And does she ever offer pushback? Of course not. Her follow-up questions are just the next lines of the script. And she just plays along to amplify the message. It's disgusting that people consider this news or journalism.
Well, look, I like to think of care as for centuries, when women were providing most of the care in the home and the man, this is just traditional, stereotypical, was working outside of the home. There was kind of shadow infrastructure being provided by that woman. She was taking care of the children. She was taking care of their elders. Now many women would like to work outside of the home, but somebody still needs to take care of the children, needs to take care of the elders.
Oh, I get it. So shadow infrastructure is really just all those things government hasn't provided in the past that they now want to control. And it is about control. They aren't going to build buildings that they can't control, or roads they can't control, or airports they can't control. And now they're coming for the heart of it. Your family. The way you raise your kids. The way your elders are treated. This is all a disguise to turn whatever they want to control into infrastructure. Because if it's infrastructure, that means it's bipartisan and popular. If it's infrastructure, you can spend all that tax money on it. Then it belongs to them. They control it.
When we think about our population in particular, over the next, 10 years, we know that a growing proportion of the workforce will be retiring, will be reaching retirement age. But in the next decade or so, the fraction of our population that is over the age of 85 will increase by a third. And we need to be taking care of our elders.
They're simply just playing word games with this. Anything that creates jobs now is infrastructure. Anything that is needed to foster equity is infrastructure. Infrastructure is now just their big omnibus bill, which they plan to cram everything they want to do into it. You can already see there's going to be a tremendous amount of bullshit in this bill because they're already having to defend this shadow infrastructure.
Elders. So A, someone needs to be taking care of them for women to be able to work, disproportionately women. But B, we're actually proposing to be that there are jobs that will be created in taking care of people who deserve to be taken care of with dignity in their elder years. So it's part of infrastructure because we need these kinds of jobs, this kind of care to enable disproportionately women to actually go to work.
So they're justifying this as infrastructure because we need these kinds of jobs to enable people to go to work. And not just any people, disproportionately women, because everything has to be about intersectionality with this administration. We can't just talk about people generally and how it'll benefit the whole country. No, everything has to be couched as providing equity. Do they even listen to themselves speak? We need to provide these jobs so people can go to work? I know Rachel Maddow is an idiot, but I think even a kindergartner can see how illogical that is. Why don't the people going to work just do that job? And this is really where it gets down to the whole control factor. They see the writing on the wall. The retirement population is booming. And their fear is that people will drop out of the workforce to provide care to their loved ones. But they can't have that because then they lose control of elderly care and they lose control of the worker population. The government is desperate to provide a shitty place for your grandma to stay so you can go off to work. And then your paycheck gets smaller and smaller because they need more tax revenue to pay for grandma's shitty nurses. And it all goes round and round in a big circle. And it just ends up with the elite and the establishment owning everything while you're the rat running in the wheel trying to provide them their tax money.
It's like I need the road outside of my house in order to get to my job. I need to know that the electricity is going to turn on in order to do my job. I need increasingly broadband in order to do my job, or by the way, for my kids to go to school. So all of these are infrastructure to help us do the kinds of economic activity that we need to do to ensure that our economy is healthy and moving forward.
Okay, so now anything that you need in order to work is infrastructure. So they're just going to keep finding more things to label as infrastructure, and if they don't fit neatly into that traditional box, if they aren't those fundamental facilities and systems we used to know as infrastructure, now those will just be considered shadow infrastructure. And this just amounts to a complete reframing of what we consider infrastructure. It follows a bigger pattern of this administration using policy to shift the idea of America and the shared values we all have. And you can't just relabel everything and fit it into this box because you think it's popular. But they're doing it and they're gonna keep doing it. Shadow infrastructure will just be the basis for pouring money into whatever the Democrats want to control. If they see something without enough government input, they see a problem, which is the bigger overall problem we have here. Their constant need to control every facet of our lives. The need to throw tax money into anything and everything. It's all about control. And it's all a bigger plan to set up a system where we need more and more tax revenue each year. They want to insert government into every industry they can so they can justify the enormous tax burden. This is literally their free stuff playbook on steroids. And if you expected any follow-up from Rachel Maddow, any semblance of a pushback, even just playing devil's advocate for one follow-up question, nope, not here. Here we just listen to our government officials tell us things and just go along with it. Don't ask questions. Don't ask for clarification. Thank you for watching the video. Comment below on your thoughts on this new term, shadow infrastructure. Also include whether you think infrastructure is a long and difficult to pronounce word. Subscribe to Exhibit Media on your video platform of choice. You can follow us on Minds and join in the conversation there. Links will be in the video description of where you can find us. This has been Exhibit Media, signing out.